Hey, it's Zach, and I'm back with another episode of Elevate and Accelerate. And today I want to talk to you again about story. We are in such an interesting time here in the United States. Got my American flag hat on, love America, served to this country, and really enjoy it for all that it is. But when we are in a election year, we are just being inundated with all sorts of things all the time. I'm getting text messages about this candidate and what they did do and what they didn't do and why they're good and why they're terrible. And it just made me think about how narrative and storytelling is such an important part of our lives that it even infiltrates every aspect of what we do. It even infiltrates our government, it infiltrates our advertising, it infiltrates everything. I mean, it is core to who we are as people. And it is something that I will say is probably one of the most powerful tools that you have, whether you are an entrepreneur or just somebody who's looking to turn their life around or make it better, or live your best life, whatever it is. At the core of all of this is your ability to be able to tell a story. So I'm going to kind of put this all together for you here, and what I think is helpful for you as the business owner, since that's most of my audience, but really anybody, helpful for you as a person. So think of it this way, and I know I've said this before, but just bear with me here. I mean, every single one of us has a story, right? It's woven together from the threads of our experiences, our triumphs, our struggles, and really everything in between. And your story is unique to you, and that uniqueness is your power. No matter what it is that you do, whether you're working for a company and you are just another person there who's doing X, Y, and Z, you understand even at that level that you are replaceable, right? And we talk about this all the time where companies don't treat their employees that well. They're just another number because they are replaceable, right? Same thing's true as an entrepreneur. Whatever you offer, goods or services or otherwise, there's probably a number of other people out there who are offering the same thing or something very, very similar, which is why people have a choice to choose somebody other than you. And why would they want to choose you? And so this idea of using your story, embracing it, sharing it, and living it authentically is really what can lead to freedom and ultimate success in your life, however it is that you define success. We call it living a life of joyful impact, where you've achieved a level of success in your life that you're looking for and still building on, and you're also helping other people achieve success in their life in the way that they're looking for. And so that intersection there is really where you're getting to live a life of joyful impact. You're joyful because you're enjoying what you're doing. You're building a great business. You've achieved a level of success and comfort that you've been looking for, and you're also doing it by helping other people and making a greater impact. But how does your story play into this? Well, getting back to the point that there's other people out there who can offer what you offer. They can duplicate what you do. I remember back in the day, this was some time ago, and I got ADHD, right? And I'm always loving these little different fidget kind of things. And so ANSI Labs came out with something called the Fidget Cube. It's got little buttons on here. There's a little dial and rolly thingies, a switch, all of these things. And I'll literally sit here while I'm talking or while I'm doing stuff or even recording these episodes, and I'll just use it, right? And so it helps me out, and just kind of keeps my mind focused in whatever interesting way that works. I don't get it, but it works. So anyway, ANSI Labs came out with this, and they were taking pre-orders. It was kind of like a GoFundMe or whatever it was, right? And shortly thereafter, there were a bunch of knockoff companies who were selling fidget cubes that you could buy right then and there. And as opposed to whatever X number of dollars it was to buy this fidget cube, it was obviously cheaper. And so there were a number of different people who purchased that, and others for me, because I expressed that I wanted this, who got it. And it was a cheaper quality, but it looked almost exactly the same. It had the same buttons, the same features, but not until I got the real deal did I even notice that it was that much different, right? But it was on a wait list, and it took forever for the real one to come. And so the reason why I'm sharing that is because people can duplicate it, right? It may not be the best. It may not be as good as what you do. Maybe it's even better. Who knows? But they can duplicate your goods. They can duplicate your services. What they cannot duplicate is you, right? You are not duplicatable. You cannot be duplicated because of your unique experiences, your unique story, your expertise, and how all of those things are woven together into who you are and why and how you do what you do. And that's the decision that people make. That's the decision that you want them to make. If you're comparing widgets, then people are making a decision on widgets. And then they're going to pick probably the cheapest widget, right? Because now it's a value offer. Well, if all these widgets are exactly the same, why wouldn't I go for the one that's going to cost me less? Because the perceived value isn't there. But when you share your story, when people see who you are and why you do what you do, when you embrace your story and share it in a vulnerable way that's also authentic, then people align with that. They become more trusting of you. And then it becomes where they only want to do business with you, and the perceived value there increases. So maybe they could get something similar for cheaper somewhere else, but they don't want that. They want the real deal. They want to work with you, and they'd be willing to pay extra or pay a little bit more or pay for whatever it is that you charge in order to be able to get it. So people are going to be willing to pay for your goods and services when they're willing to pay for you. They want to work with you. They want your specific magic behind all of this, right? How many times have you heard someone else's story and felt a spark of recognition, right? That feeling of, wow, I'm not alone in this. That is the magic of storytelling. And that's what you are doing for your audience. When you share your stories and struggles and what you've been through, the why behind why you've created the business that you've created, or why you work the job that you work, or why you volunteer at the nonprofit you volunteer at, when you share that, it breaks down walls. It opens other people up. It bridges the gaps that might otherwise be there. And it shows people that they can trust you. Again, all of this is about building and maintaining relationships. Our entire world, our lives as human beings are structured around relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships, business relationships. It's all relationships because it is the interacting of two people together towards a common goal, right? The trading of goods and services for monetary or other types of value, and that is so that we can live our best lives, and we can best do that together, right? And story is at the core of all of that. But the power of story is more than just this, right? It could be used for good or bad. In fact, some of the most powerful people in the world are storytellers. In fact, I would say the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. And that's because they have the ability to change the mind and mindset of a large number of people, however big their audience is. A good example of this, again, we're in the political climate, right? It's an election year, and so we're getting inundated with all sorts of narratives about this candidate and that candidate, right? You've got the narratives of how great they are and the narratives of how terrible they are, right? And so those narratives that are being constructed can literally change the perspective that people have on that person. Whereas they may have before been unrecognized, or somebody that they never thought of as a potential candidate now is the person that they would vote for first, right? Because of the stories that were being shared, because of the narrative that's been created about who they are and what they do and why they do it, right? And that power can be used for good or for bad. It can be used for lifting people up or knocking people down. And so your choice in this, the power that you have within your own audience and framework and network, is to share your story in a way that empowers other people to live their best life as well. And when we share our stories, it gives other people permission to share their stories as well. And so we create this space of where authenticity reigns and where true freedom really lies. So think of it this way: your story could be the key that unlocks somebody else's prison, especially if you offer goods and services that help people live a better life, or to prepare for retirement, or to better their business, or even get out of it. It's things that they haven't thought about, and you have the key to be able to help them live a better life of freedom. In whatever way that might be, financial, personal, relational, however it is that you help them, you have that key. And so by sharing your story, you help them understand their story and know that they're not alone, and that there's an option for them to be able to better their lives and better their stories as well. And in that, they get to share their story and can help somebody else, and so on and so forth. And it's a way in which we can build the society that we want, right? Is by sharing these stories and being authentic, and letting other people know about the things that we're going through and the things that we can do to help them. So Brene Brown, she's a great storyteller, has written a lot of really inspiring books. And one of the things that she says is vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's all about having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Right. And this really is so true. When we embrace our story, imperfections and all, that's when we step into our power. We get to reclaim our narrative. And so, what are some ways in which you can start embracing and sharing your story? Right? In ways in which you can start stepping into your power. First and foremost, you've got to reflect on your journey. In a future podcast, I'm going to reveal the archetypes that I've created around this story mindset that covers a lot of these things. Really excited to do that and to share that with you. And so look for that in the next episode or two, where I will talk more about what this looks like and what archetype you might be and how story impacts your life right now. But first, you can reflect on your journey, right? Taking time to look back and think about pivotal moments in your life. What have you learned from them? What haven't you learned from them that you could learn from them? And how have they shaped who you are today? The other side is really finding your voice, whether it's through writing, speaking, art, whatever it is. Find a way that feels natural to you and express yourself in the way that needs to be heard. It deserves to be heard. People want to hear it. The other thing here is you can connect with others, right? Sharing your story with friends or family members or a supportive group, just even putting it out there is healing for many, many people. And the more that you share, the more confident you'll become in your own narrative and in your own story and being able to share that in other places. The other thing here is being authentic, right? Don't shy away from the messy parts. I always tell people, especially if you're in business and sharing this in your marketing and sharing your story and stuff, you don't want to share things that you haven't healed yet, right? So heal those things first, and then you can talk about them. But being authentic is a really tricky thing. In my mind, the minute that you try to be authentic, you're no longer being authentic. I see this a lot of time in churches, right? They talk about how authentic they are and how real they are, but they're just trying really hard to be those things and be seen as those things, and just saying it doesn't make you it, right? So being authentic is a little bit tricky. How does one be authentic? Um, it's just by being you, right? Understanding your core values, knowing your story, knowing where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you want to help people, and then living in alignment with those things is what being authentic is. It's what living with integrity is. And so that's what you want to do, whether that's a vision for your business, a vision for your life, or how both of those things combine together into one. Authenticity really does resonate with people because it's real, and it's that key piece is what makes that storytelling so powerful when you authentically share a story with other people. And the other part then is listening to others, right? Storytelling is a two-way street. It's not just you sharing your story. It's about you listening to other people's story and encouraging them to share their story as well, where you'll find inspiration and solidarity in their experiences and the things that they've gone through. So before I wrap things up here, I know it's a rather shorter episode, but just as I'm being inundated with these text messages from different candidates and all these things, I just wanted to share with you how the power of crafting and sharing narratives is so immense. It is a tool that's been used for generations to change the thinking of the public, which is where PR got its start, to inspire others to take action, to create a community of people that are like-minded and want to impact change or make a difference or whatever it is. Story is at the core of all of this because story is at the core of how we build and maintain relationships. In previous episodes, I've talked about how that's true scientifically and historically. And if you want to know more about that, you can go back and look at those. But at the core of all of this, and as I said earlier, the power is in the hands of the storyteller. It all depends on the size of your audience as well. But the way in which you grow that audience is by authentically sharing your story. And so as we wrap things up here, I just want to leave you with this one final thought, and that's simply this. The power of your story lies not in its perfection, but in its truth. A lot of times we are afraid to share our story because there's other people who have better stories, more emotional stories, what we believe to be more powerful stories, or we're afraid to share our story because we haven't really thought about it that much, or we feel like we didn't share it that well, and so we don't post that video, or there's more that we could have said, or some that we shouldn't have said. The reality is, again, is that the power of your story is not in its perfection, but it's in its truth. and in your ability to be able to share your truth with the world in an authentic way that shows them why you do what you do, who you are, what you're all about, your purpose, your mission, and how they can all be aligned with that. That's what it's all about. And so embrace your story, share it with the world, and watch as you unlock new levels of freedom and connection and success in ways that you probably didn't even imagine before. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you found some value in that. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. And until next time, keep elevating and accelerating. Cheers.